State House press release, President Tinubu decries violence in Rivers, directs police to provide security to local government offices. President Bola Tinubu has called on Governor Siminalayi Fubara, political leaders and their supporters in Rivers State to exercise restraint and uphold the rule of law. In response to recent tensions following last Saturday's local government council election, the president expressed deep concern over reports of arson and explosions in the state. He urged all political actors to de-escalate the situation and discourage their supporters from engaging in violence or destructive actions. President Tinubu directed the police to restore and maintain peace, law and order immediately, while instructing law enforcement agencies to bring the situation under control. He emphasized the need to ensure the security of public institutions. President Tinubu said government facilities built with public funds must be safeguarded from vandalism. He stressed that self-help has no place in a democratic system, especially after 25 years of continuous democracy. According to President Tinubu, the judiciary can settle all political disputes, and the outcome of this election should be no exception. Signed, Bayo Onanoga, Special Advisor, Information and Strategy, on October 7, 2024. Victor Nyiche, what do you make of this press statement from the presidency?
Well, I know what I want to, this is what he should do. Right, make a statement, or this is what we've been saying. What I expect is action. I mean, does the president really need to direct the police to do their responsibility? Well, I mean, why? You know, you see when I said what we are saying is oddity. We are saying things that are going in the opposite direction.
Things that naturally should.
Yes.
Should happen.
It should happen.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. The president is making a statement directing the Nigerian police force. What is the duty and responsibility of the Nigerian police force? It's like they are sleeping and the president needs to remind them that, okay, no, you know, go and do this thing. For me, the most important statement the president made is about the rule of law. He said nothing cannot be resolved.
People should go to court.
People should go to court.
The question is, are court orders being
respected? That is where.
So is that going to? Is it working in Rivers State?
You know, when laws are made, there are people or institutions saddled with the responsibility of enforcement.
Who are the people?
The security agencies.
All right.
The police, the civil defense, and the likes. Now. We all know that there have been several cases, litigations in the court. Before the local government elections were held, or was held, there are litigations and arguments in court that has not been vacated. However, the Supreme Court judgment is being put in front as a reason, as necessitating the conduct of that election, which for me I think is a flimsy excuse. The fact that the law says this must be done doesn't mean this can be done illegally or legally. When the judgment or there's a part of the constitution that says you should do this, it means by the law.
Follow the due process.
Follow the due process.
Okay.
And if the process is not followed, it cannot and should not be done. However, what the constitution says. For me, what we should do is, I think as a people, we should not just like we've been doing, create policies, agencies that are not going to do their responsibility. We have several judgments that have been disobeyed in Rivers State from both sides. What are the punishment? What is the punishment? What is the consequences for disobeying court orders? We are not sane. And the average man on the street would look at it and say, no matter what happens, if I go and say I want to do this thing and I know it's against the law, nothing will happen to me. People will be emboldened by the inability and the inactions of the law enforcement agencies. So for me, laws have been made. Every day, people are failing. The judiciary, courts of coordinated jurisdiction, delivering judgments that are self-contradicting. The judicial, I think there's a part of the judiciary that's supposed to punish judges for giving conflicting judgment and all of that. Is that being done? That is not being done. So for me, the rule of law is there. But how is that law enforced? We have not seen proper enforcement of law. So no matter how much we have laws, nobody is enforcing it. The people that are saddled with the responsibility to enforcing this law are not doing it. And the people that these laws are meant for keep ignoring and praise singing people breaking and violating the law. We keep encouraging them. We celebrate them when we think it favors us. And when it doesn't favor us, we complain. Not minding that whatever happens when you set the precedent, tomorrow the next person will come and will probably live on it. For me, if we're going to prosper as a people, no matter how complex and difficult, no matter how disadvantaged it might seem, we need to follow the rule of law. All right? For me, that local government election, should not have held until all issues were addressed properly. It wasn't. But of course, the doctrine of necessity is what the excuse being used for why the election, all because they are rushing to ensure that whatever is coming from this local government is controlled. By the way, the fact that there might not have been an election doesn't mean that the funds will not come, but it will come through different channels. Don't forget, we have there are options for how the funds will be used. But if there are no local government, we have the State National Assembly, and that is how whatever will be done. But because of politicians want to ensure that they are the ones in control of the fund. Everybody wants to ensure that the people that are there and answering local government. So for me, the rule of law is the most important thing the president has said. We should follow the law, not resort to self-help, because it will only give us a state of anarchy.
All right. Honorable Laka, what do you have to say to this press release by the president?
Well, I would always come from my own perspective. The president's statement is on one hand timely and on the other hand belated. Timely in the sense that yesterday we saw what has happened and the president just need to make a call. On the other hand, the president should have spoken to the police to protect life, to remind them, since they need a reminder. The president would have reminded them before today this statement he has made, so that the police wouldn't have withdrew themselves from the elections. They should know that naturally, when that kind of activities called election was going on, it's a public program. And what would the police have told Nigerians if there were a breakdown of law during that Saturday exercise election? They would say they withdrew now. They didn't know that there was going to be an election. So they were not part of it. So anybody could have been slaughtered at the polling units. Yes? It is not, at that point, the reason for the establishment of police became silent for as long as 5th October was concerned in Rivers State. What therefore means that the police will have been withdrawn. Stay back, don't participate in anything that is going on. And so on that fateful day, people could have beheaded people freely in the states. While in the name of election, people could have raped, people could have committed all kinds of crime in the streets. Because it was a free-for-all. The street was free. Rivers State was free of police patrolling, was free of any kind of interference as far as that election day was concerned. Now, all that happened on that day, all the crimes that were committed on that day, would not have any record, because the police would not do their duty, because they were waiting for the president to tell them that they need to protect lives and property. It is a shame on the part of the police. And for the president, what I am expecting him to say at this point is to fire the IG. Because it is a failure of the IG to be responsible to duty that have brought the setting of local government facilities ablaze. As a matter of fact, it is the failure of the police that have wasted the entire fund, haven't sealed the local government and supposedly protecting the local government for 3 months. What was the resources? What about the economic wastage? You know what it takes to station the police people at the various council secretariats for 3 months? There were logistics that were running. To what extent? What is the economic implication of the 3 months wastage when at the end of your 3 month stay in the council, 1 hour later, or between your withdrawal, that same council that you said you were protecting, that the fund was being wasted for you to be there, was eventually destroyed in 1 hour. That's sabotage on the system. And so the police hierarchies would have been sanctioned by the president. That's the kind of statement that should be coming now.
All right.
Thank you.
Victor, you have something to say?
I think I want to disagree with her in this instance.
All right.
Remember, I made reference to, I said the most important thing I want to take from the statement of the president is the rule of law. And from what he's saying, which makes some sense, but look at it this way. If some persons, some people that are supposed to be participants or take part of the election have gone to court and given the court reasons why police should not be involved, why the register and all of those things that is necessary for a proper election to take place should not have been given. And the court, which is where the rule of law, of course, the custodians have said, okay, for these reasons, do not provide that. And because these things are essential to organizing such elections, you don't have them. And as long as you don't have them, you should not conduct an election. Because one, it is not safe. So INEC research should be the one that should be sanctioned, because you've taken a decision resorting to self-help that could have led to serious crisis in the state. That you say, regardless of the rule of law, that the court has said, look, from all evidence that were given to us and presented to us, that these people should not provide this because they feel if the research has not fulfilled all they need to do for the election to take place. And if you don't have security, you shouldn't. You know that it will be putting the state or the people residents in harm's way by conducting an election of this magnitude. This is what I mean by the rule of law. Whether it favors you or not at that time, because it doesn't buy into your interest, doesn't mean you should violate it. Doesn't mean you should overlook it and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to resort to self-help, because that is what the governor in the state and the research chairman did. However you want to look at it, if they say, I heard the governor say several times that it's because we do not need the security. What are we going to do? Very unguarded statement. I'm saying we must follow the rule of law to the letter if we're going to get things right. You cannot choose how lawful you want to be. You cannot choose to the extent of lawfulness you want to go. That is not how a sane, organized society works. You follow the rule of law to the latter. And if you decide you choose the ones you want, you think you should obey. A governor coming out to say that we do not need your security is wrong. I can also say I do not need the security of the government. It means I can also say, the people can also say, we do not need the security of the civil defense. We do not need the security of road safety, as long as it does not favor something we're doing immediately. The people that went to court, are they not people of Rivers State? I'm not saying they were right or wrong, but I'm saying because we have rule as a people, and the custodians of the law have come out by looking at the evidence. The case was in court. The research was party to that case. INEC was part of that case. The Rivers State government, they were all part of that case and parties to that case. And the judges have looked at it and said, you know what, there's enough evidence for us to say, do not give them this thing. What it means is that elections should not hold. But they kept saying, was there any place in the judgment that he said elections should not hold? The governor has put the lives of the people at risk by going ahead with an exercise without the security agencies. Right or wrong, I am not even saying whether the people that went to court had good intentions or not. I'm saying just supporting what he's saying and also going against it at the same time. If anybody should be held responsible, it should be the people that disregarded the rule of law to still take an action that that could have turned out to be something detrimental. If violence would have occurred, what would have happened? Oh, look, we had a court order. The police was simply going by the rule of law, which the governor should have done, which RISEC should have done, not hinging their operation on the Supreme Court judge is saying, okay, because he said we must conduct. Yes, you must do it, but you must do it according to the rule of law. And that is my anger with governance. You see, this person will come to them and tell you, I am doing this. There's a judgment. The Martins Amewule faction of the Assembly cannot come out boldly because the case is still pending in court. It hasn't gotten to the Supreme Court. Say, well, say, okay, this is the proper House of Assembly. If you notice, the governor, of course, knows that most of his decisions have not been through the Oko-Jumbo-led assembly. It has always been either by an order or by some form of executive order, because he knows the implication of these things. So why are we choosing to obey some part of the law and disobeying the other part of the law? And the people of imagine if in the state we decide to choose the things we want to do. The ATL can decide and say, okay, you know what, we don't need police security. They should get away. Because why? Maybe somebody procured a court order saying anytime that ATL does his duty, you affect my own business. And the court said, no, okay, so police don't give security. And you know that the chances that somebody can come into your premises and steal something. If they do, which fault this? You pause your operations.
Hold on. When you're talking about the police not giving security, and
for the election,
and
I'm not saying in general.
The governor saying that
they should not give us security. We don't need their security.
You know that in all the elections, both at all levels, when you get that result sheet, there is a section where police must sign. It is mandated by law. There is a section where police must sign, and apparently these are prerequisites for elections to be valid, for the validity of election. You also spoke about two things. You said that the court said in their order, one, ordered INEC or barred INEC from releasing the certified voter register to RISEC, and secondly, barred the police from participating in the election. There was also a third instruction, probably, and I don't know why, for some strange reason, it's not being mentioned as much as the other ones have been mentioned. The police actually told RISEC to go back and follow due process. Now, let me just give a very brief overview. He said that Justice Lifo held that RISEC was wrong in fixing the October 5 date for the conduct of the poll when all relevant laws guiding the election had not been complied with. Among others, the judge held gave rise to this crisis. It would have been avoided if RISEC in the first instance had come back to follow due process, or if RISEC had waited, the governor had waited for the pre-election matters to be settled, and then all parties can move into this election with one voice. Do you think this crisis would have been averted? Okay,
I am not a lawyer, but I do know that there is the highest court of the land, and there are judgments that have come. There are orders that have come, but that is it, as it has to do with the timing, participation, and all that voter register. Outside that, there is issue of local government autonomy, which was the federal government case, and that judgment got that particular case ended with the Supreme Court's declaration for local government autonomy, and there's a time limit for this autonomy to be implemented. Now, the governors recall that the governors had a meeting with the federal government, and have had an agreement of the time
3 months.
3 months to enable all of this to be taken care of. By which time, if any state is not able to do that, that means you are going to be at variance with the Supreme Court judgment. And so in line with that Supreme Court judgment, as it has to do with autonomy, the Supreme Court judgment supersedes all other issues that are coming. Because at the end of the day, the matters will be returned back to the same, will end at that same Supreme Court. So what happened in Rivers State and what is happening in other states where elections are being conducted is a follow-up of the Supreme Court's judgment in relation to the local government autonomy, wherein we cannot begin to mix all the cases together. And so they were hinging on that arrangement, and that's why what RISEC was responding to. Every other cases that have come.
If RISEC is told by the judgment did not tell RISEC, do not conduct local government election.
I'm coming.
Did it?
I'm coming.
All right.
The judgment did not say that. Now, RISEC is following that local government autonomy. The governor had equally made the same statement as to give the backing to why RISEC had to go ahead with the election.
Be in contempt of court.
Now, the president has equally captured the issue of go to court. And so, whoever is aggrieved, please go through the process. Go back to court.
I think this is my problem.
At the moment,
when he's done,
at the moment, the elections have been conducted. Please, everybody is expected to cease fire, return back to court. Let the judiciary, which has become one of the major problems of Nigeria, address itself.
Okay.
And the whole thing will still boil down to the final verdict at Supreme Court.
Do you remember the last statement of that judgment of the Supreme Court? He said the only excuse for an election not to hold. Remember, he said it's either because of security issues or war.
When the Supreme Court
what it means is if there are legal reasons, if there are proper reasons that election,
he said there can be an extension of a tenure by 6 months.
Now, see, the thing is this: the fact that the Supreme Court has given a judgment doesn't mean do it illegally and then go back to court and contest it. This case there's a case saying you've not followed the process, due process, before you conducted the election, but you still went ahead. So you cannot do something illegal in the name of trying to do something that is commanded by the fact that there's freedom. You know what they said about freedom? That where your freedom ends, is where my it's done that way. What we're missing in Rivers State is that people choose the extent at which they want to be lawful and then go back and say, I think it's very clandestine and kindergarten for the governor or the research chairman to come and say the reason they are conducting this election, however illegal or not, is because there's a law saying local government autonomy is a law, it's part of the constitution. It says they have autonomy. It does not say crook or hook do an election. So for me, I'm hinging my own intake on rule of law. If there's no law broken by research, years to come, the governor will still sit there and say, you know what? I don't need to follow this thing. There's a Supreme Court judgment. Do an election in 2 months. You understand? Because the Supreme Court say we must do election. It didn't say you must do an election. It said you must follow. There's a timeline. Follow the timeline and follow the outline, the state and law. And because these politicians know that they can do it and people will come out and say the Supreme Court, no. Did you follow the law? To be fair, I have people, friends and associates that contested from different local governments under the APP. Did they do primary? If they did primaries, I would know. What it means that this crop of people in the local government do not understand what it means to contest the intention to rule their people. And it is bad for democracy.
Now, the question would be, because I want to ask you this question, because it has been rolling around my head. You know, the question would be, building on what you have said about the people not even being elected by the people.
An election.
You said they were selected. Now, does this represent the Rivers people? Because now the governor usually makes a statement. He says Rivers first, Rivers first. And yesterday when he was speaking, he said he was telling the FCT minister to let go for the sake. He said, the governor he said, let there be peace for the sake of Rivers people. Now, that brings me to using Rivers people as a bait by both factions. Using Rivers people, playing emotions with the mindset and the psyche of the Rivers people. Because when you put that mantra, Rivers first, does the action of the governor through the RISIEC speak Rivers people? I've asked severally on my show, was this election, was it an election or a selection? That's one point. And when some persons come out to say, oh, the elections without the police went peacefully, and I asked, was it contested? And then the second point, in the first instance, I mean, when some of some electorates, I reached out to them. They were live on my show via Zoom, and they clearly said that in some units, elections ended by 10. In some units, election ended by 11. And I was like, so how many people turned up for the election for accreditation to happen, an election was conducted and results were collated, and the election ended by 11? 10 people, 12 people, how many people came out? Because Rivers local government election is closer to the grassroots.
Yes.
If state elections could bring out Rivers people in their thousands and their millions, I expect that local government elections should have even more weight, because the candidates they are voting for, they can tell their families, they grew up together, they can give history. You know, there are memories of those people within the community. How come in this instance is different? So when people are saying Rivers people, second question, factions are fighting for power. Who are dying? Actually, as of yesterday evening, from the investigations I made and got, over 7 people were killed yesterday. Rivers people. The question would be, these persons that died and the persons that are on the streets killing and maiming and doing whatever they want, the loyalists to different, can your children walk the same path that their children, the children of these powerful people, walk? Is governance trickling down right now? I mean, it's 2 years the governor is in power. Can we say we are seeing governance the way we should see it? This battle for structure and survival, how is it affecting the Rivers people?
I think to support what you just said, there's something that I feel is unfortunate. See,
you can answer, or Laka can answer as well as we round up.
Let me not say, some of the aspirants for the local government are actually loved by the people. I must say that if a proper election was done, I'm sure that they would have won.
Okay.
You know, I am sure.
Very
yes,
clearly.
If an election, there was a proper contest, they still would have won. You know, I can mention a few. The likes of Ichemati is a wonderful young man that I admire his pattern and style of leadership, you know, as concerns politics. He's somebody that I would support and I would encourage anybody, anytime, any day. The person in Onelga, Isaac Prince Emeju, the same thing. I can actually say these persons are people that, if they come out, I am sure that they are going to have a lot of, there will be contests. But unfortunately, the process has not been lawful. And I'm saying this because it's not about being political. It's about the rule of law. And just like the president said, and I'm emphasizing on that, all we need to do is follow the rule of law. And I think things will be done better and democracy would grow better.
All right. Honorable Olaka, you'll find your closing statement.
Well, my closing statement is that whichever way the election had been done, I want to say that let everyone who has been, who is a Rivers man, be carried along. Let the governor look back and get everybody on board working. As I speak now, not all the parties were captured. Not all parties were captured in this election. There couldn't have been any way APP, who was nowhere, would have won all the seats, leaving the other party, 2 political parties, 1-1 and all of that for 5 local government, 5 political parties. The remaining parties should be properly integrated. This is my take on this.
Well said. Victor, final statement.
I think final statement, you know, I just want to toe the line in our leaders should be smart in even being sentimental. They should be smart in doing this, because that's the only way to favor the people. Follow the rule of law. And however, in a case like this, where the governor, of course, will have to face this fight, you must understand that people should be carried along properly. There should be a high level of transparency. If he had done that, and I'm sure he would have been, even in the APP, as they are saying, there are a lot of people that from different parties came up to say we're going to support the governor, and even in that process they were still disenfranchised, and doesn't show people. The governor should learn, because the political fight would not end. Learn how to include everybody irrespective of your interests, and I'm sure it will be better.
All right, thank you so much, Victor Nche, for coming on Open
Always
Conversation.
my pleasure.
And thank you, Honorable Olakalaka. It's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you.